welcome to the Deep Dive. We often talk about the big moments in World War II D-Day, the tank battles, the famous generals.
Absolutely, the dramatic stuff.
Exactly. But today, we're digging into something that might be the most critical piece of the whole Allied victory machine, yet it's often completely overlooked.
The engine behind the engine, so to speak.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
We're talking about the supply line that literally saved the Allied advance after Normandy. We're talking about the Red Ball Express. So let's set the scene. It's August 1944. General Patton's Third Army is just tearing across France eastward.
Moving incredibly fast. Genius movement, really. Caught the Germans completely off guard.
But here's the catch, and it's a huge one. The faster Patton moved, the longer and more stretched his supply lines became.
Right. Classic logistical nightmare. Success breeding its own problems.
Exactly. Suddenly they're facing critical shortages. Ammo, food. But the big one, gasoline.
Fuel. Always the fuel for mechanized warfare.
His armored divisions, the spearhead, the most mobile force in Europe, they were grinding to a halt. Not because of enemy panzers, but because their tanks were literally running on empty.
It's a terrifying prospect for a commander.
Totally. The question was stark. What good is this amazing breakthrough, this victory, if your army just stops?
And that's the bottleneck, isn't it? It wasn't even just like poor planning initially. It was the scale of the success that caused the crisis.
They were way ahead of schedule.
Weeks ahead. They'd planned on using major French ports, right, like Cherbourg.
Yeah.
But those ports were unusable, either destroyed by the retreating Germans or, ironically, by Allied bombing beforehand.
And the trains, the railways.
Same story. The Allies had systematically bombed the French rail network to stop the Germans resupplying their troops earlier in the campaign.
So you've got this massive, fast-moving army.
And basically no traditional infrastructure left to support it. No major ports, no reliable rail lines.
Which brings us to the mission for this deep dive. We really want to unpack the Red Ball Express, this improvised, relentless solution.
Yeah, this lifeline. It stretched, over 400 miles across France, all through roads that were just chewed up by war.
And it ran nonstop, 82 days and nights, August 25th, right through to November 16th, 1944.
It was quite simply the absolute non-negotiable thing they needed to keep the advance going. Without it, Patton stops. Period.
Okay, so let's get into the weeds of how they pulled this off.
Yeah.
The organization must have been just mind-boggling.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the amount of stuff needed, especially fuel. I mean, we've seen figures suggesting one armored division going full tilt could burn through maybe 300,000 gallons of gasoline.
Yeah.
In a single day.
Just one division, 300,000 gallons.
How do you even start moving that kind of volume with just trucks?
Well, you don't just drive trucks. You essentially have to create a whole temporary logistical world. The organization needed military precision.
Right. And they marked the roads, didn't they?
Yeah.
Signs.
Yeah, that's where the name comes from. Distinctive red circles on signs, the Red Ball route. These weren't just roads anymore. They were priority supply arteries. Absolute priority.
And the flow. They controlled the flow meticulously.
That's the key. They often made entire roads one way. Think about that. One whole route, maybe hundreds of miles long, just for loaded trucks heading east towards the front.
Full of fuel, ammo, food.
Exactly. And then another route, often running parallel, used only for the empty trucks racing back west to the depots near the coast, get loaded, turn around, head east again, nonstop cycle.
Wow, a highway system built just for this.
Pretty much. And that kind of system demanded equally strict rules for the drivers.
What was the main rule?
Simple, brutal, uncompromising, don't stop for anything.
Don't stop for anything.
Imagine hearing that. You're driving this huge, often overloaded truck. Maybe it's pitch black, minimal headlights allowed because of bombers.
On roads you don't know, probably full of shell craters.
Exactly. And if you break down or get stuck, you could be a sitting duck for German snipers or maybe a random Luftwaffe plane that got through.
But you just had to keep going. The flow is everything.
The flow is everything. And the scale. Over 23,000 men were involved in this.
23,000.
Primarily driving and maintaining, yeah. And nearly 6,000 trucks. 6,000. Moving, on average, 12,500 tons of supplies every single day to the front lines.
That's the invisible engine you mentioned powering Patton's tanks.
Precisely.
And the total numbers over those 82 days, They're just staggering when you add it all up.
Oh, they really are. Over 412,000 tons of supplies hauled in total.
412,000 tons.
And the sources calculate the effort involved is over 122 million ton miles driven.
Okay, ton miles. That sounds technical, but break it down for us.
It's actually pretty straightforward. It just measures how much stuff in tons you moved over a certain distance in miles. So 122 million. It captures both the sheer weight and the huge distances covered.
So it really quantifies the massive effort. It wasn't just about making things in factories back home.
No, it was about delivering it consistently, reliably, over hundreds of miles of dangerous territory. It really was, as you said, industrial warfare on wheels.
And that efficiency, that sheer relentless volume, it apparently blew the Germans away.
It did. We have accounts, from captioned German officers who simply refused to believe it was possible. They thought the reports had to be exaggerated.
They couldn't conceive of logistics on that scale.
Not really. Their system relied much more on rail, which was broken, and horse-drawn wagons for local distribution. This endless river of trucks was something else entirely.
There's that quote from a German general, right? Analyzing why they lost.
Yeah, it's fascinating. He basically said they hadn't really underestimated America's soldiers, not fundamentally. What they underestimated was America's factories.
And its ability to deliver what the factories made.
Exactly, its logistical capacity. Seeing the Red Ball Express in action must have been demoralizing. Proof that this industrial giant could just keep feeding the front line no matter what.
But keeping those trucks running?
Yeah.
That must have been brutal. 6,000 trucks,
Yeah.
pushed 247.
Oh, unbelievably brutal. They were essentially driving these vehicles into the ground. The wear and tear was insane.
How bad was it?
Figures suggest that nearly a third of the entire truck fleet broke down every single day.
A third. Daily.
Mhm.
How do you even sustain that?
That's almost 2,000 trucks out of action each day. It's incredible they kept it going. These were mostly the standard U.S. Army workhorse, the 2.5-ton GMC truck.
The deuce and a half.
That's the one. Tough trucks, legendary even, but driving them constantly, often overloaded on terrible roads at speed.
It took a toll.
A massive toll. They shook violently. There was this dark joke among the drivers
What was it?
that you could identify a Red Ball veteran by his loose teeth, just from the constant vibration.
Wow. That paints a picture. Punishing work.
Definitely. And like you said, a 30% daily failure rate. That would bankrupt any civilian trucking company overnight.
So how did they keep the supplies flowing? What was the fix?
Well, it was another layer of incredible organization and, frankly, sheer grit. They had mobile repair units stationed all along the routes.
Mechanics working right there on the side of the road.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
At relay points or just wherever a truck died. And often these mechanics were highly skilled black soldiers, experts in keeping heavy equipment running under terrible conditions.
Working around the clock, I assume.
Absolutely. Their job was simple. Fix the trucks faster than they broke down, keep the numbers up. They had to be incredibly inventive.
Using whatever they could find.
Anything. Scavenging parts from wrecked vehicles, Allied or German, didn't matter. Field welding. Jury rigging repairs just to get a truck moving for another 100 miles. This constant cycle of breakdown and repair was just as vital as the driving itself.
So I've got the logistics, the machines, the repairs. But let's pivot to the people actually doing the driving. The human element.
Yes. This is absolutely central to the story.
Because the sources are clear. The vast majority of these drivers putting their lives on the line day in, day out.
Over 75%. 3/4 or more.
Were African-American soldiers.
Yes. In a segregated U.S. Army, they were assigned arguably one of the most dangerous, most critical, and yet least glamorous jobs of the entire European campaign.
That's a powerful point. The irony there is just huge.
It really is. Think about it. Many of these men were drafted from the Jim Crow South, where they faced daily discrimination and inequality.
And then they're shipped overseas to fight against Nazi ideology.
An ideology built on racial supremacy, yeah. They're wearing the uniform of the United States Army, risking everything.
But facing discrimination within that same army.
Absolutely. They often couldn't eat in the same mess halls as white soldiers. They were frequently given the worst billets, the worst quarters, sometimes assigned the most dangerous night routes.
I read they even had issues with basic facilities, like restrooms.
Yeah, there are accounts of needing separate mobile latrines brought in because local facilities, even in liberated France, sometimes wouldn't serve black soldiers or white soldiers wouldn't share. It's deeply troubling to think about.
And yet,
Yeah.
despite all that, they delivered.
They delivered day after day, night after night, driving shifts that could last 12, 18 hours, sometimes more with only brief stops.
Many probably hadn't even driven big trucks before the war.
Right. They learned on the job, mastering these huge vehicles, driving in blackout convoys, dodging craters, fighting sheer exhaustion. The level of professionalism and dedication required under those conditions, it's extraordinary.
Especially with the lack of recognition, the lack of basic comforts, the constant prejudice.
Their commitment really went beyond just duty. They knew how vital this was. They were literally driving history forward.
And the validation, when it came from the top, didn't it? From Patton himself.
It did. General George S. Patton.
Yeah.
The man whose entire aggressive campaign depended completely on that fuel and ammo arriving. He put it very plainly.
What did he say?
He said, "Without these trucks, we would have lost the war."
Wow. Not just, it would have been harder. Lost the war.
That's the quote. Not praise, really, just a statement of absolute fact. The success rested squarely on the shoulders of those drivers, many of whom faced discrimination while doing it.
So let's connect that dedication directly to the bigger picture, the strategic result.
Okay, well, historians generally agree the Red Ball Express was essential in maintaining the momentum of the Allied push after the Normandy breakout.
It kept the pressure on the Germans.
Constantly. It allowed the Allies to exploit their success, to keep advancing rapidly while the Germans were still reeling and trying to establish new defensive lines. This continuous pressure is widely credited with shortening the war.
By how much? Any estimates?
Some estimates suggest it might have shortened the war in Europe by as much as 6 months.
6 months. That's
Cute.
That's huge. Think of the lives saved on both sides.
Exactly. It highlights how crucial logistics are, not just tactically, but strategically in the grand scheme.
And there was more than just the physical delivery of goods, right? There was a psychological impact, too.
Oh, definitely. Think about it from both sides. For the German soldiers trying to retreat, trying to regroup.
What did they experience?
Imagine hearing it, night after night, that constant, endless rumble of heavy truck engines in the distance. Seeing the faint glow of heavily muffled headlights stretching for miles along the roads behind you.
Proof that the Americans just kept coming.
And that they seemingly had infinite supplies. Sources describe it as a form of psychological torture, a constant reminder of the industrial might they were up against, the sound of inevitable advance.
But for the Allied troops at the front, waiting for those supplies.
For them, that same sound, the rumble of the Red Ball convoys getting closer, was the complete opposite.
It wasn't torture.
No. It was the sound of hope. It was tangible proof that they weren't cut off, that support was on its way, that the fuel for the tanks, the shells for the artillery, the food, the medical supplies, it was coming.
It meant they could keep fighting, keep moving forward.
It was the sound of the Army's heart still beating strong. It literally fueled their ability to fight and their belief that they would succeed.
So if we boil it all down for you, the listener, the Red Ball Express teaches a really fundamental lesson about modern war, doesn't it?
It really does. It proved that victory isn't just about who has the bravest soldiers or the best tanks. It's also critically about who moves fastest.
Who organizes smartest.
And who simply never stops delivering the goods. It was American industrial power and organizational skill projected right onto the battlefield, mile after mile.
So the Red Ball officially stopped running in November 1944. What happened then?
By then, the Allies had finally secured and opened up major deep-water ports like Antwerp in Belgium.
Ah, so they could bring supplies in much closer to the front.
Exactly. And crucial French railway lines were being repaired and brought back into service. So the need for that incredibly long, nonstop truck route diminished. The regular Army logistics could start to take over again.
And these soldiers, particularly the African-American drivers who formed the backbone of it all, did they get the recognition they deserved?
Well, not immediately. Not in the way you might expect. There weren't big parades specifically for the Red Ball drivers. Medals weren't handed out widely for this kind of logistical work, despite the danger.
Their story was kind of buried for a while.
For decades, really. It took a long time for their specific contribution and the context of the discrimination they faced while making it to become a well-known part of the World War II narrative.
But they knew what they'd done.
Oh, absolutely. They earned something perhaps more lasting than parades. They had the undeniable knowledge that they were the indispensable engine. They kept the Allied advance alive, kept the spear tip sharp. They helped turn the tide in the biggest war humanity had ever seen.
They proved what was possible.
They absolutely redefined logistical possibility under extreme pressure.
So maybe the final thought for you, the listener, wrapping this up.
I think the enduring lesson here is pretty powerful. Behind almost every great victory, every major success story, whether it's in war or peace, there's always a supply line.
Often invisible.
Often invisible. There's a driver, a mechanic, a planner working behind the scenes on an unglamorous road or system. And so often, the people carrying the greatest weight, doing the most essential work, are the ones who get overlooked.
Makes you wonder.
Yeah. What other vital supply chains, what other Red Ball Express stories, the hidden successes that make everything else possible are still out there unheard in our history or even in the world around us today? That's definitely something worth thinking about.